Hi, my name's Jessica Thiel. I'm a postdoc researcher working on an ARC discovery project called Producing, Managing and Owning Knowledge in the 21st Century University. Our project team includes Professors Kathy Bowery, Kimberly Wetherell, Emeritus Professors Jill McHugh and Tom Cochrane, Dr. Kylie Pappalardo, Dr. Marie Hadley, and myself. Our project investigates how research is managed in Australian higher education institutions, both in its production and in its dissemination. Drawing from our research, today I will present a perspective on equity in academic publishing, focusing on the individual's perspective within three aspects of the publishing process. First, looking at the publishing labor. Second, the perceived power imbalance when it comes to understanding and negotiating publishing contracts. And lastly, the cost of publishing, specifically looking at the payment of article processing charges, APCs. Our project completed 50 interviews across 10 institutions, with a variety of different disciplines and different roles, ranging from those in researcher positions through to those in university management. Starting with publishing labor. In terms of publishing labor, interviewees were critical of what they saw as a publishing system centered on exploiting the free labor of academics. Several of our interviewees expressed concerns and frustration that unpaid tasks such as editing and peer review often spilled into their personal time outside of business hours. These sorts of tasks are generally not counted in university workload metrics, but are expected to be performed as part of being a good academic citizen. Other interviewees felt that the academic publishing system required them to pay multiple times over for the same output, once in terms of subscription or open access fees, and then again in terms of labor. One academic told us that the current model involves universities paying millions and millions of dollars every year to publishers that do very, very little other than scooping up the license fees. Overall, the interviewees were critical of the academic publishing space, with several noting that publishing models were potentially misaligned with academic goals of sharing research far and wide. Next, I'm going to look at the relationship between academics and publishers in terms of publishing agreements. There was a level of uncertainty felt by academics in terms of understanding IP, specifically the copyright conventions of ownership and authorship, which, when coupled with the drive to meet institutional research benchmarks, often meant that academics didn't feel empowered to negotiate with publishers. As a rule, academics were just dead keen to get their work published and would sign whatever was put in front of them. One interviewee stated, "Negotiate with the publisher? No, not really. You just sign whatever they ask you to sign." The overall view from our interviewees was that publishers hold all of the cards and academics have very little bargaining power. As one interviewee said, the power relationship is pretty clear, at least for most cases. What can you do? If they say no, well, it's either sign it or not sign it at all. Another stated that publishing contracts were a necessary evil. Overall, interviewees painted a landscape where they felt they lacked the requisite knowledge and support and the power to do anything about it. And then lastly, we look at article processing charges. We found that there was no consensus across institutions regarding the way that APCs were funded, and in most institutions, there wasn't a policy to guide the management of APCs. APC funds were secured usually by academics from multiple sources, and sometimes it was very piecemeal. In instances where APCs were actually centrally managed, the strict eligibility requirements often favored journals in the STEM fields, such as those in nature and science. Some of our interviewees from HAS disciplines expressed that they felt as though they were disadvantaged as a result. A major concern raised by both academics and management were accounts of researchers paying for APCs out of their own pocket. We were told several times about academics paying for these funds out of their own funds. This concern was especially acute with respect to early career researchers and higher degree researchers who were likely to feel greater pressures to publish in well-known journals, but who would often struggle more with the pressure to pay for the APCs. There was a sentiment that publishers essentially had universities over a barrel because university ranking depends in part on quality publications, but the cost of publishing in high-ranking open access journals seems to rise each year. So I've spoken briefly about three aspects of academic publishing, and using the data from our research, I've highlighted perspectives and perceptions of individuals within the space. University policy tends to treat some of these issues such as individual concerns, often leaving them to the individual themselves to manage. Concerningly, individuals often don't feel as though they have enough power to negotiate within the system, and feel as though the system itself may not always be equitable. There needs to be a systemic policy approach at the university level, where universities are asserting control over IP rights so that they can't be negotiated away to publishers. Further, an institutional approach to issues like these would provide individuals with the support and guidance required to make more informed choices when it came to publishing. Our research dives into these issues in a lot more depth, as well as a number of other related issues within the academic publishing space. If you are interested in our upcoming publications or in helping us advocate at the upper management level at your institutions, please email me at jessica.thiel@qut.edu.au, and my email is on the slide. Thanks so much for having me.